How's it going, everybody? How the hell are you? Welcome back to the Nerdy Jock. Thank you for joining us again. And remember, hit that like button, smack that subscribe, so you always know when the new videos are coming out. Now, there is a bunch of stuff going on right now. The World Cup has started, and hey, no rainbows. And other news in that part of the world, water is wet. Also, F1 season is done, so let's talk about what we learned over the course of this season. And we also have some things to talk about when it comes to the Hockey Hall of Fame. We just had the inductions the other day. I've got a bone to pick with some people about a particular person that they want in. All that and more, let's get into it. Here we go. As I said off the top, the World Cup has come back into our collective consciousness. Yes, it's in the winter time. Why is it in the winter time, you may be asking yourself, and not in the summer, as it usually is? That's a really good question. It's because FIFA's super corrupt, and they took a buyout from a bunch of people in Qatar and didn't think, maybe it's hot in the desert in the middle of summer. Anyway, so they moved it to the winter, and surprise, surprise, it's still really hot. Mind you, it's not melting hot. Never mind the fact that there are massive human rights issues going on, and hey, if you wear a rainbow anywhere in that godforsaken city, you might be taken to jail. FIFA came down and said anyone who was wearing the everyone's welcome armband, captain armband, had a rainbow on it, you'd get a yellow card. I'm not a professional athlete, but there's one thing that I know. Professional athletes need to pay attention to the game. They need to be focused on what they are doing. It's a very big sport. They want to win, obviously. They can't be worrying about that stuff. So they take it off and they do something else. Now, there are also journalists who have been stopped already. Apparently, they're scared of colors in Qatar. Who knew? That a multicolor could freak a bunch of people out, but it does. Anyway, Canada is playing on Wednesday. They are playing at 2 o'clock. It should be interesting. Lukaku is not going to play for Belgium because that's their first game. I think be, optimistic about Canada's chances. Look, there are people who think that Canada's not even going to score a goal, which is ridiculous. Did you not see them play in their qualifying matches? They've gone up against the US and they've gone up against Mexico, and they've played very well with them. I think, hey, I don't think they're going to get out of the group stage, but I think they show well. Look, they've got Alphonso Davies, who's super young and exciting. That whole team is young and exciting. I can't wait to see them play. Call me optimistic. Besides, I'm a Habs fan. I have to be somewhat optimistic, right? And the F1 season, another F1 season has come and gone with the final race in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, it was an interesting season. So let's take a look back at the beginning of the season, what we learned throughout the season, and what we know now at the end. All right, at the beginning of the season, Ferrari was on top. Let's face it, there was testing going on. Ferrari had the fastest car. Every car that had a Ferrari engine in it was going way above expected. They just looked poised to make a run at the title this year and give Red Bull really a run for their money. Then Ferrari did Ferrari things, screwed it up. Now, first couple races, sure, it looked great. Then reliability issues came in. Their strategy just, threw their drivers completely under the bus. There was also the issue of porpoising, and if you remember back to the beginning of the year, that was all anybody could talk about was porpoising. What is porpoising? It's airflow. They're trying to clean up the dirty air behind the car, so they bring in ground effect underneath the car, and what did that do to the car? It made the car do this all the way down the track. I like to headbang as much as the next person, but I don't think it's very comfortable headbanging in a car at 300 kilometers an hour. Now, this all came to a head in Azerbaijan when I think even Lewis Hamilton took like 10 minutes to get out of the car because he was that sore and injured from just all the way down the track. Unreal. Oh man, the camera's going. Unreal. But they seem to have stepped in, fixed it. Second half of the season obviously went a little bit better. Now, the whole idea of the new cars was so that they could race closer, they could get in, and there would be more passing. There'd just be more intrigue in the race for fans to watch. Because let's face it, F1 blew up these last couple of years. Really came to a head last year, especially with the ending that we all know and love. So this year they really wanted to take another step. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the steps that were taken weren't really thought about, and you had a lot of like DRS trains, if you will. Now, what's DRS? Well, DRS is there's a little fin on the back of the race car, and when it opens up, DRS, they open up, it gives it an extra 10 or 20 horsepower. I don't remember what the actual number is, but it gives it more oomph. Okay, because there's less drag now. This, however, you can only open it if you're within a second and a half of the car in front of you, and the problem is now cars are closer, and they're all within a second or a second and a half of each other, and they all get DRS, which means nobody gets advantage. But that's okay. Look, things happen. Red Bull ended up taking the reins and ran away with the championship. Now, F1 has done a good job in increasing its viewership and its notoriety, especially in the North American market, which it really wants to crack. In fact, it's, I think, got 5 races coming up in North America next year. So there's a lot that is riding on a lot of this stuff. The problem is they have got to figure out how to make races more competitive. You cannot have one car or 2 teams racing for the championship. You've got to have multiple guys, and it's got to be close. Problem with this year is that it wasn't. We thought it might be, and then it just turned into a never was. Mainly because I think Ferrari's terrible. Not that the car is terrible, that the drivers are terrible, but I think how they're run is not good and needs to change, because you can't have the car that they had at the beginning of the year and screw that up. Just my opinion. Now, also, Red Bull's cap, issues came up this year, and once I think we dug into the numbers and dug into everything, I don't care. Like, I don't, and I don't know why people do. And they're sitting there going, well, they had to cheat in order to beat Lewis Hamilton and all this other. No, they didn't have to cheat. You actually look back at the races and stuff. I mean, the cars were on par with each other. I believe even, the year before, Mercedes had a maybe slightly unfair advantage with a brand new technology that they developed and came out with. It was like they could they could change their wheels. Anyway, whatever. Once it was seen, then, they were allowed to use it for the year, but then they weren't allowed to use it again. At the end of the day, this is a very money-driven sport, and people are going to spend a lot of money on it. So if it gives me close racing, I could care less. And the amount of money that they actually went over was almost negligible. Anyone who's sitting there crying, stop it. Okay? Even at the end of last year, every Lewis Hamilton, no question, Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest drivers if not the greatest driver of all time. Okay? I'm not arguing that point. But the point is that you need to see other people maybe win every now and then to keep things interesting. Nobody wanted to watch F1 when Mercedes is just running away with it, going 1-2 the whole time. Who the hell cares? The race is decided before it's even started. And last year, in the final race, everyone wanted to complain about it. Guess what? Mercedes screwed up. Lewis Hamilton could have come in and changed his tires more than once during that race. And races should not end on a safety car. Shouldn't. It's racing. Now, how they did it? Yeah, whatever. But did it make things exciting? Did it make things interesting? Yes. And at the end of the day, it's an entertainment product. Are you not entertained? And lastly, and surely not least, the NHL is in full swing. And we are witnessing the rise and fall of the Buffalo Sabres again. Seems to happen every year. We're witnessing the New Jersey Devils coming out party, which is new. But I guess that's what happens when you finish near the bottom for a few years. And we're also watching everyone freak out about the Toronto Maple Leafs and their rough start, but they've seemed to come back. Now, here's what's really interesting about that. The Toronto Maple Leafs, and I don't know if their fans know this, but Toronto can't start on time, ever, actually. So that includes also the beginning of seasons. I mean, they've done it now 2 years in a row. And then when everyone's like, oh, but it's fine. And then you get to the end of the season and they're not in either the top spot or they don't get, maybe a better matchup in the playoffs. And it's only a couple of points that they're out by. You tend to look back at the beginning of the season and go, maybe those were some points that could have helped. But who am I to really complain? Because I'm playing a fantasy hockey for the first time and I've got Marner, Nylander, and Morgan Rielly. Although that Morgan Rielly one looks a little like it's going on LTIR. So that might bite me in the butt. But that's fine. These things happen. And at the end of the day, I am a fan of hockey first. Speaking of hockey first, the NHL has their annual, last couple of years notwithstanding, their annual induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And we had the Sedins and we had Alfredson. And look, the Hockey Hall of Fame inductees has started to become a little bit of the Hockey Hall of Very Good and not the Hockey Hall of Fame Great. Because somebody, again, sent like this Jason Spezza Hockey Hall of Fame worthy. I'm like, no, he's good. It's not great. And this brings up my point that I really start to beef with a lot of people about. And that is every year that this comes up and somebody says, well, Paul Henderson isn't in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Now, if you don't know who Paul Henderson is, you're probably pretty young. But let me explain. Paul Henderson scored the goal in 1972 during the Summit Series when Canada played Russia. And this was the first time that Canada and Russia had played. And it was not just a battle of hockey nations, but it was a battle of ideals. It was the Soviets. It was communism. It was, all of that stuff that we were fighting against here with our democracy. And it all kind of came to a head. And they had a series and Canada ended up winning it. Paul Henderson scored the winning goal. Now, that goal is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. You can see it. You can find out who scored it when you go there. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can go to the booth where they have you can call a game, you can call a moment, and I'm pretty sure that's one of them that you can call, like on the like a play-by-play guy. Like if you want to be Joe Bowen for like 30 seconds, you can do that. It's there. But does Paul Henderson as a player deserve to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Fucking no! Jesus, okay, let me read off some stats for you, okay? Paul Henderson played a grand total of 700 games in the NHL. This is just his NHL. He also played in the WHA, which I'm pretty sure a lot of them did because they got paid more. He never scored more than 60 points in a season. Now, the year before the 72, he played 72 games. He did 30 goals and 30 assists for 60 points. It's pretty good. And then the next year, he did 38 goals, 19 assists, 57 points. It's also pretty good. That's probably why he got on the team. Was those 2 years right there. 60 and 57. Never hit those marks again. Ever. You can go back when he played with Detroit. 21 points, 46, 40, 33, 11. And then 59. Oh, I guess he only played 13 games. Probably what. Then he went 59, 42, 60, 57. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty good years. Never over 60, though. For 700 games, he's got a grand total of 236 goals for 241 assists for 477 points in 700 games. That is not a Hall of Famer. It's just not. Cry about it all you want. It's not a Hall of Famer. Did he score arguably the biggest goal in hockey history as far as Canada is concerned? Yes. Then Canada should have a Hall of Fame for Canadians. Pretty sure we do. Pretty sure he's in it. I don't know. I haven't checked. But this is the Hockey Hall of Fame. This is not the Hockey Hall of Very Good. This is the Hockey Hall of Great. Good Lord, people. I'm proud as punch that he scored that goal just as much as the next person. But, you know what I see here? I see a guy who was basically out of the league in 1974. I mean, he played over 10 years in the NHL. 477 points. That goes into the Hall of Very Good. Not to the Hall of Fame. So stop it. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me. Do me a favor. Enjoy the World Cup. Enjoy the hockey that's going on. And hey, it's American Thanksgiving coming up. Enjoy the football as well. I know my fantasy team is doing terribly, although I did have Tony Pollard last week, and he did put up 40 points. So I'm pretty pumped about that one, as I'm winning games by like the skin of my teeth. Anyway, everybody enjoy it. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, always remember, it's always game time, baby. Let's go!